I want to bring in on set with me Brook Silva-Braga, who joins me now. Brook, you've been listening in on reaction from Capitol Hill. What are you hearing?
Well, one of the interesting things is going to be what moderate Republicans say in response to this. And Lindsey Graham seemed to have some indication this was coming because he was the first one with a statement out almost immediately as we got the news. And Senator Graham, who, was a real critic of Trump's candidacy and came around really quite late, wrote, "I know this was a difficult decision for all concerned. I appreciate Director Comey's service to our nation in a variety of roles." And then here really the key end to the statement: "Given the recent controversies surrounding the director, I believe a fresh start will serve the FBI and the nation well. I encourage the president to select the most qualified professional available who will serve our nation's interests." I've also, like many folks, been going to the real Donald Trump Twitter handle, waiting to see if he has a statement. He has not tweeted anything since 5:40 p.m. when he retweeted a Washington Times article. So we have to go by what the president said in his official statement, saying basically that he was accepting Comey's resignation. "I nevertheless concur with the judgments of the Department of Justice that you are not able to effectively lead the Bureau," he wrote. It's interesting, Rena, of course, Comey was a very controversial figure during the entire election cycle. On Election Day, Trump was asked if he would keep Comey around. And at the time he said, "I don't want to comment on that. Everyone is disappointed with what's happened."
Yeah, interesting. And also then months later, see the embrace that he had of Comey when people realized that he's probably going to keep him on. Steve, while I have you, I want to ask you as well, in particular, about the focus now, this memo that Sessions had put together and transferred over to the White House. We don't know exactly what was in that. But what more do we know? I mean, clearly, obviously, he's the Attorney General, the influence that he has on the president about making this decision. Is there anything that we know about that relationship?
Well, ultimately, the Attorney General is the boss of the FBI, right? So, I mean, he's the one making the decision. Obviously, he was getting some sign-off from the president on this, too. But this is the person that Comey reports to, is Jeff Sessions. And so we're all anxious to see what's in that memo, because he's going to have to lay out the reasons for getting rid of a guy who's in the middle of a 10-year term as serving as FBI director. So that is the piece of paper that I think everybody's sort of waiting to see. What is the justification for getting rid of a guy in the middle of his term running the FBI? So we'll see what happens there.
If you're just joining us now, we have just received breaking news this afternoon, just a short time ago. The White House announcing that President Trump has fired his FBI Director James Comey, a man who was supposed to serve a 10-year term, has 4 more years left to serve in that term. And the news taking many in Washington by surprise. We're hearing some reports possibly that the folks in the FBI might not have seen this coming. We are hearing the exact statement from the press secretary saying that Comey was terminated and removed from office. President Trump acted based on the clear recommendations of both Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. And the statement goes on to say that this will mark a new beginning for a crown jewel of law enforcement. Brook Silva-Braga is on set with me here. Brook, this is only the second time in history this has happened.
Right, and we're talking about 110 years between the FBI and the FBI's precursor. It happened, as Paul Reed mentioned a little while ago, back in 1993. But in that case, a couple key differences here. President Obama dismissed William Sessions, the then FBI director, because of misappropriating funds. Sessions also was 6 years into his term. In this case, Comey just about 3 years into his term, meaning that he would be the FBI director through a re-election campaign for Trump. And so this is something that cut short what should have been, a much longer tenure for Comey.
Yeah, that happened under President Clinton, Steve, and the fact that it's been so long since this has happened, what does that tell us sort of about the institution of the FBI?
Well, again, this is, it's a very well-respected institution. I think that these FBI directors, again, serve under the pleasure of the president, but also the attorney general. And I would think that, you're dealing with people who are the head law enforcement officer, really, in the country, or one of them. And so, there's got to be some pretty good reason to dismiss these folks, and it doesn't happen very often. And again, this is why I think we're all sort of hanging here, waiting to see what Attorney General Jeff Sessions has in this memo of recommendations to get rid of Comey, because it doesn't happen very often, and it's just going to be very interesting to see what the justification is for making a move like this.
We've seen 3 major removals of people in his cabinet, in President Trump's cabinet: National Security Advisor, advisor, the acting attorney general, and now FBI Director James Comey. If you're a Democrat on Capitol Hill, Steve, how do you take this news, and what do you do with it?
Well, one, I think you're hearing some of it basically, first of all, suggesting that there's something going on here in terms of something sinister going on here in terms of the Trump administration, perhaps worried about the direction of this FBI investigation into the Russian meddling. Now, there's no indication that that's actual fact, but from a political standpoint, that's what Democrats, I think, first of all, are going to fan the flames on. Secondly, I think one thing you're hearing from them is, okay, fine now, because this has happened, let's start to talk about having an independent prosecutor or an independent, somebody independent looking into this Russian meddling thing. Whoever Donald Trump picks to replace Comey is likely not to be an independent arbiter in this situation, and so let's get this out of the FBI investigation, turn it into an independent prosecutor situation, which sort of ups the ante on the investigation. I think you're going to hear a lot of that from Democrats as well. But what this does is it places in the lap of Democrats some political mud that they can throw at the White House and at President Trump. It's not a good look for the president to be doing this while he's under investigation, or at least while his administration is under investigation from the FBI. Now, again, that might just be bad optics on the president's part, but again, it's not good. It's not good politically, and Democrats are going to seize this and really, I think, start to hammer the president pretty hard on this over the next few days.
We've just heard Steve say the Democrats are going to seize this. Brooke, what are we hearing from Capitol Hill from Democrats?
Well, Democrats' reaction, slow coming in still, but it's been interesting to me that we haven't heard them necessarily question the cause for the firing as much as look forward. Joe Manchin, fairly moderate Democrat from West Virginia, writing, "It's not going to imperil our investigation as far as the Intel Committee. We're still looking forward to having James Comey come before us, same as Sally Yates." And Dianne Feinstein from California, a very strong critic of the president, also looking forward to who might take Comey's job, said that it must be someone strong and independent. Paula Reed had heard the name Rudy Giuliani floated as a possibility. That's someone the Democrats will have a lot of trouble with. If you remember last summer at the real nadir of the Trump campaign when the Access Hollywood tape came out, we've learned from later reporting that even some of Trump's closest associates said that he should drop out. Rudy Giuliani, I saw him on a rainy night outside Trump Tower and asked him, is he going to drop out? What did you say to the candidate Trump? And he said, good luck in the debate tomorrow. The only people that are backing away from your candidacy on the GOP side are people that didn't really back you to begin with. Rudy Giuliani, a diehard Trump supporter, is someone that Democrats would have a lot of trouble with in that role at the FBI.
Interesting take that you had heard about that, outside of the event that you had attended. Steve, I want to ask you, what goes into selecting the FBI director? Is this something that Congress has to approve, or does the president just appoint this person?
That's off the top of my head. I don't know the answer to that question, Rena. I don't want to get it wrong. So
it's been a while. It's been a while since this has happened that we've had to actually have this. So I understand. But this we talk about the independence of both. There was some skepticism by many on the left when Jeff Sessions was put in as Attorney General. Talk to me about that fight, Steve. And he did obviously manage to get confirmed, but there were many people who were worried about the independence of the Department of Justice.
That's right, and I think there are many Democrats that were worried about that. But again, this is serving at the pleasure of the president. These appointments, have to get through Senate confirmation. It wasn't surprising that somebody as polarizing as Jeff Sessions had a little bit of resistance from Democrats. But it's going to be very interesting. If the name Rudy Giuliani is a real thing, I totally agree. That is going to be a very messy process for President Trump, because if you're talking about somebody really partisan, these positions, these FBI directors don't usually hang around politics before they get into the job of FBI director. Rudy Giuliani is about as partisan as it gets. The guy ran for president. He was a mayor of New York. He was somebody who campaigned with President Trump regularly. He was out there on television defending the president. And so you're going to put somebody like that in as FBI director. That's going to raise a lot of hackles on the Democratic side, basically saying this guy cannot be somebody who is an independent director of the FBI, and that's going to cause, I think, a lot of problems for them. It's interesting because you're talking about Democratic reaction. Tim Kaine, you remember Hillary Clinton's running mate, said that the Trump firing Comey shows how frightened the administration is over the Russia investigation. I suspect that that's going to be a pretty common response from Democrats as we hear more and more from them, really trying to tie this move with Trump and the Russia investigation and suggest there's something sinister going on here with the president and making this move right now.